Welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
And I think always a good place for us to start is how did you get through last year? Share with the team or share with the audience. How did you stay mindful and empathetic last year in a really tough time?
I've been quite lucky in that I actually have a small homestead. I've always been interested in alternative agriculture approaches and things like that. And growing up in New York City, we didn't have a lot of that as an option. So my wife and I decided we were going to move out to PA and got a little bit of acreage with fiber, of course. And so, I take care of chickens. I go for walks with my kids and just enjoy nature as much as I can, within the confines of my little homestead here. So I'm very, very fortunate to have that luxury and be able to, look out my window and see trees and take a deep breath and go for a walk if I'm a little bit stressed or if something's going on at work or in, the home life. It's just a beautiful thing to be able to go out to nature and just even sit there and just listen to the birds.
I got to tell you, and that was all done before COVID, right? That's not new. That was a move before COVID. Is that correct?
Right. You just don't really notice how important that is if you're still going into the office every day. So having a separate spot in my barn that I can have as my office and go out for a walk to that every day, to have that separation between my home space and my workspace, that by itself is invaluable. And, being able to take a walk during lunch and actually get some fresh air and not have to worry about other people. Those things are invaluable in this type of situation. And yes, I did want that lifestyle ahead of COVID, but I didn't really have a full appreciation for how wonderful it would be until something like this happened.
I love how you said you needed the homestead, but you needed high fiber. I freaking love that. That's the greatest line.
I like to joke that my barn is the most wired barn in Bucks County.
You know what's so crazy? My in-laws are from Bucks County. I know Bucks County, but you don't sound like you're from Bucks County.
No, I was originally from New York City, born in New York City, spent the first 5 years of my life in Indonesia, and then the majority of the rest of my life was in New York.
And I got to tell you, so now one last question, the birds. Oh man, do you have an alarm clock or do you let the birds wake you up? Because I'll tell you a quick bird story, but tell me about the birds.
My kids wake me up every day. My oldest son decided a while ago that 5:30 is a great time to get up. So we all kind of get up then. But yeah, our birds, we have just some chickens and they give us our eggs. We don't believe in the agricultural system that's there nowadays. It's a little bit rough on the animals themselves. And so we're trying to opt out piece by piece by doing as much of that ourselves as we can. And so we've got chickens right outside our back door and they handle our eggs for us. And
I love it.
Yeah, in the summertime, we let them out and they eat the ticks. So it's a win-win all around.
That's funny. During the summer, I would leave my windows open and there was a bird that would always wake up, I think at 5:45. So I just stopped setting my alarm every day. He would just wake up and chirp at 5:45. It was cool. That's what I learned during COVID is just there's a bird that has come into my life and he wakes me up every day and it is a joy. It used to be a pain. Now it's a joy. So let's get into the data. I know there's a few things we wanted to cover. What are your thoughts? Where do you want to pick up? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. So I was part of a startup company that got bought by PayPal, and we kind of brought our AWS ideas and ideas of the cloud into the PayPal ecosystem a little bit. We're fighting to sort of bring some of those new ideas to the broader ecosystem there. Ideas like guardrails instead of hard mandates or central process. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm a big fan of is enabling teams, not by heavy-handed process, but by guardrails that allow the teams to do what they need to do and what they want to do, but still has all of the business concerns addressed around compliance and security and, business drivers and goals as well. So that's a big thing that I've been working on these days is how do we establish those guardrails and still enable our teams to do what they need to do?
How early were you and how was the exit? So were you an early employee? Were you a co-founder? And congratulations on the exit. Not easy. So congratulations.
I was actually employee 68, so I was not very early in the process. I was the first real enterprise IT hire, though, who had any background in Windows Server systems and the like. So I kind of took over when we had some issues with the Active Directory and sort of brought everything up to par and design some new systems to enable us to continue to grow. So we were growing at 200% year over year at that point. And just onboarding enough users was a challenge and a half. So one of the first systems we built when I came on board was just a simple laptop imaging system. That was the business need at the time. So that was the first priority, was being able to get new people online quickly.
I'm a former founder. I'm always a founder. I'm a former CEO founder. I love playing early. And so, the understanding that you can play early and play enterprise, you have a soft spot in my heart, because I get you.
When we were bought by PayPal, it was my first real large enterprise experience. I'd done some work in college for the colleges that I was in, City College in New York and RPI up in upstate New York, but never at the scale of something like a PayPal. And it was an eye-opening experience to see all of the different concerns and the processes and everything. And very much like the startup mentality where you can wear a lot of hats and you have a lot of different responsibilities. I think it's a really wonderful place to be, but I'm very thankful for the exposure here and seeing the other side of it as well. It's been extremely educational and in a good way. I've learned a tremendous amount so far.
I mean, if you think about PayPal and the lineage and the PayPal mafia, I mean, what that company has done in the Valley and the founders and everything about that company, it's gold. You are at such a great spot that has such great history. And I'm loving the Venmo purchase. So I think everything that you guys are doing is great. Community members who are in fintech, and we have community members that are at startup. And we have adults and we have first-time founders, right? So it's interesting that you can be an adult in one sense and then be a first-time founder, be a child, because you've never done it before. So I love that you've seen both. I think it's amazing. And I love that you're able to do it, in a place that you can be productive. So I love that you're doing it on the homestead. I mean, that is just the dream.
Oh, thank you. And it's been a lot of work to get here. It's about intentional choices and lifestyle design. Leaving New York City was not an easy decision for a lot of reasons. And you really are disconnected from a lot of the technical meetups and the events that occur when you're in a large city. That's a hard thing when you're a technologist, to try and stay on the cutting edge. So doing that through PayPal, through my work, has been a blessing in and of itself. And then trying to figure out how to do that during COVID, outside, is very difficult. So I am hoping that we'll return to some kind of normal where we can have meetups in the area where we can do things again.
I think that's also one of the things I started this whole community and the podcast was, I looked at it as during COVID, it was a tough time. I dealt with the loneliness and self-isolation. So I built this community just to give hugs, HUGS, just to give hugs to people who are mindful, introverted, empathetic, but love data. I mean, that's where we skew, is in that field.
And that's a great thing to see these communities coming up. This one that you're creating here for data enthusiasts, and there are just so many communities that are being created, in this virtual space. And that's giving some semblance of normalcy to people. It's interesting to see how the human condition, how we need this type of connection. And if we can't have it, we make it happen somehow.
Yeah, well said. It's like, I almost feel like I need this more than everybody else. Like, these calls break up my day, right? Because these calls make it to my dinner table, because what else am I doing? When I share stories with the family, I'm like, oh, I had a podcast, I met a really great person, and here's what we talked about. Because it's so hard to meet and be that way. So it's really this, I think I need this, and it's just good. Like you said, then from here, and why I like the podcast is I get to hang out, and then I get to know personalities, and then I can say, oh, you know what, here's 4 or 5 people in the community that I think you'd mix with, right, in these sectors. So then I'm able to connect you to other like-minded people. So again, not building the largest network, but trying to build the most connected network. And if there's 5 more people you meet from this, we all win. The community's stronger, the relationships are tighter.
Yeah, and that's a great type of community to build. It's the kind where we're all helping each other, taking us all to the next level. And when you're in these positions in companies, it's important to keep your pulse on the events and the happenings and the ideas that are happening across companies and across industries even. I may technically be in fintech now, but I started in just end user support. And that function works in any company. Any company in this day and age needs data processing capabilities. They need that level of analytics and understanding. And if they don't, they're not going to play on that large space. It's just not going to happen. Having that understanding, sharing it across the industries is key.
And being able to do this now where you can do it from Bucks County. You can do it from any county USA. I mean, that's nice. I mean, you can still wake up with the chickens, if you will. I mean, you timed it right.
It's interesting. We actually have some people on the extended team who are in RVs, and they just go from hotspot to hotspot, surfing the country and seeing what's up, and still working out of their RVs. So anything's possible, and it's honestly, the new paradigms, it's rife with opportunity, and it's a terrible way that we got here, but it really has accelerated a lot of the work from home capabilities and ideals that people were talking about for a long time, but businesses were afraid of. And so there's just tremendous opportunity to design your life the way you want to live it and then make it happen.
Listen, first off, we're brothers from a different mother. I get you. I did the San Francisco to Florida exodus. I'm designing my life, and I decided to try to go with this new trend of no address, which is once I get vaccinated, I'm just going to jump around Airbnb. Like, I don't know where I end, but you're right. I'm going to design it. So someone's like, where do you want to live? I'm like, I'm not sure yet. I never thought I'd have this opportunity to backpack across America as an adult. And not be the weirdo. Because the conversation you just described with your friends is weird, but it's so normal now, right? Because if you just said this when everything was real, I'd be like, your friends are working and RVing across America, like, that's weird. Now it's like, oh my God, I want to do that. I can do that.
I think a lot of it is just in the fundamental mindset of, yes, there's terrible things that are occurring on a daily basis out there. But, if we focus on the changes that have happened, we can capitalize on it. We can take ourselves to the next level through it. And it's not easy. It's a struggle. It's hard. Yep. But, the perseverance and the grit and pushing yourself through it, you can come out the other side in a much better place. And it's a hard thing to do. So many people are suffering now, and it's hard, but it is possible.
Yep. And there's going to be someone I'm going to connect you with who I met through the podcast. He sits in London, and he's putting his time, as a data scientist and also as a data DJ. And he's gotten into DJing. So I want to connect you with him because he's in fintech. He's at HSBC. But I had a conversation with him, and we were crying during the conversation. So I said, when we get together one day, we're going to have the whole community together. We're going to have a party, and I'm going to fly you in from London to DJ. So I'm like, who do you want to meet? He's like, I want to meet data-driven DJs, so data-driven music people. So I'm like, well, we have people from like Pandora and Netflix. So it's just so cool that I'm meeting people that are data enthusiasts. But as I get to dig a little bit deeper about their passions during COVID, it just makes it feel like I actually are building nice friendships. So that's why I'm, again, grateful for you to be part of this. I love your story. I love where you ended up. And there's going to be a few people that I'd like you to meet at your, on your timeline, just to, again, connect on both what's out there. And again, that connection will tell you what's out there in a few more weeks than in a few more weeks, right? Because that's what we're trying to build, is that a long-term connection. So you always have your pulse on what's out there.
Oh, that's great. And looking forward to it.
And if you do get down to Miami, we will get together. I don't know if I'll be in Bucks County, but if I get to New York, I'll ping you. Is that fair? We'll definitely have a cocktail or something like that.
Yeah, it's a short trip up there, so not too difficult from here.
I love it. Well, listen, thanks for being on the show. I can't wait to keep the conversation going. There'll be a couple intros. I'll make via LinkedIn. And then as you see people in your journeys that you think should be part of the community, again, pay it forward. Like, I'd love to meet and see if I can keep connecting people.
Oh, we'll do, definitely. And again, thank you for having me. Appreciate the conversation.
Of course. Same. Thank you. Have a great day.